All right, welcome to this screencast on the Battle of Gaugamela in 331 BC. I'm in my daughter's bedroom, and and there's Pixie the cat. Okay, so Gaugamela, let's go. So here we are. Here, as you can see, we've had victories at Granicus, Issus. Egypt fell without any blood being shed, and then we're now at Gaugamela. This is the definitive battle between Alexander and Darius. And it is between these two. The winner of this battle will be the ruler of Persia. Now, we looked at what Arrian said that Darius had: 40,000 cavalry, 1 million infantry, 200 scythe chariots, and 20 elephants. I suggest to take a zero off the 1 million infantry number, which will still leave us with 100,000, which will still leave a force that is well over twice the amount that Alexander has. And we talked about Darius's weapons that he was pinning lots of hopes on: his 200 scythe chariots, the chariots with the blades on the wheels, and the 20 war elephants that would hopefully roar down on the Macedonians. And what does Arrian say Alexander has? He says he has a total of 35,000 infantry and cavalry. We'd probably believe that, actually. It would be about that. Arrian is definitely going to magnify Darius's forces to exaggerate the extent of Alexander's victory. But when we look at Alexander's sources, yeah, we probably are right at about 35,000 would be somewhat correct. Now, we have another instance before the battle of Parmenio offering advice to Alexander, and Alexander ignoring that advice. Parmenio suggests to Alexander, the force is so big, the Persians are so many of them, we need to attack at night, Alexander. It's our only chance. The confusion that will reign at night may give us a chance of victory. Attack at night, Alexander. And Alexander replied, I will not steal victory like a thief in the night. So, here we see again, for the third time, Alexander is rebutting the advice of Parmenio. Parmenio offered the advice at Granicus about waiting until the morning, and he also, with the letters that came from Darius after the victory at Issus, he was suggesting that Alexander should accept the offer, and Alexander refused that as well. So we are perhaps seeing some cracks in the relationship between Alexander and Parmenio, which is an important point as we move forward in this topic. Okay, so the Battle of Gaugamela itself, Alexander is hiding behind my head, but he's got his companion cavalry with him. In the center is the phalanx on his left wing, and Parmenio and the allied cavalry. And the secret weapon, so to speak, the reserve force back here. We can see Darius is out here with his immortals, the 10,000 strong bodyguard. His Greek phalanx is here, led by the elephants at the start, and we've got the scythe chariots on Darius's right wing in front of his infantry, and his cavalry on his left opposite Alexander. Darius sends in his right wing, led by the scythe chariots, and they crash into Parmenio and his cavalry. And we hopefully can see from here that Parmenio is hugely outnumbered. He's not going to win here on the left, but he needs to hold to allow Alexander to be awesome. Then simultaneously, Darius sends in his center, led by the elephants, and Alexander heads out to the right. He actually heads out into the desert, a move that throws the Persians all plans out of action, as they're wondering what the hell he's doing. Because we have the situation where the elephants are taken care of, the scythe chariots are taken care of, as I talked about, but Alexander has gone out into the desert. Darius is fearful that if Alexander heads out too far into the desert, Darius will not be able to encircle him with his superior numbers. So he orders his cavalry to follow Alexander in sort of a parallel course. Darius's cavalry are led by his cousin Bessus, and they essentially are moving out in the desert here, and Alexander is moving out as well. Two forces running parallel to each other into the desert. And the centers collide with both the Greek phalanxes meeting each other, while Alexander is still heading out happily into the desert. I'm just going to scroll down a bit here. But what Alexander's been waiting for is that gap. The gap to appear between the Persian cavalry and their center by them going out into the desert following Alexander. And at the signal from his flag signalers, he steps hard left, swirls around and smashes straight through the gap that's created between the Persian left and their center, and heads straight for Darius. Alexander is leading the charge. So he split the Persian line. It's a huge defining moment in battle. And the Persians realize they've been done, but they swerve right, and they come in, and essentially they are charging for the rear center of Alexander's Macedonian force, thinking that they can at least do some damage there while Alexander has split their line. But this is when the reserve force come up and they take care of the Persian cavalry, all part of Alexander's plan. And so Alexander is thus free to read straight at Darius. On the left wing, you can see here, Parmenio is going to crumble, he's going to fold. The Persian infantry is far too strong. In fact, some reports say that the Persian infantry had got into the Macedonian baggage train. So Parmenio was almost done. It's pretty even in the middle with the two Greek phalanxes, but Alexander is able to punch through the immortals and head straight for Darius. Darius sees Alexander coming and runs for it, the same as he did at Issus. And so we have a situation here where Alexander is essentially in two minds. What can he do? If he follows Darius out into the hills and tries to catch Darius, he is going to risk losing his army on his left flank here because Parmenio is about for them all to collapse. Parmenio has sent one messenger to Alexander to tell him to return and aid the left wing. Alexander has ignored that. Parmenio has finally sends his son Philotas to Alexander and says, you've got to come back. My father is about to go. You need to come and save the army. Alexander is torn. If he follows Darius, he'll catch him, perhaps, but he will lose his army. If he goes back and protects and helps Parmenio, he will lose Darius. Alexander, in the end, is persuaded that Darius can wait for another day, but he's not going to be much good without his army, and so Alexander turns back and is able to come to Parmenio's aid, and at the same time, all the rest of the Persians and the Greek mercenaries who are fighting the Persian side have seen Darius head for the hills. They essentially give up, and that allows the Macedonian forces to swing over here to the left and take care of the Persian infantry. So this was a resounding victory for Alexander. And Curtis Rufus, I like this quote, he says, his skill and bravery won the day. And that's absolutely correct. Alexander's skill in strategizing this victory where everything worked out as he intended, and his bravery, he led the charge. He was brave enough to not only come up with this audacious plan of creating a gap in the Persian line, but he led the charge at Darius. Alexander was hugely responsible for this victory. Darius is full of despair. His empire is gone, his family's gone, his family's kept by Alexander. Really everything has just turned horrible for Darius, and all that he had has come crashing down. And so, well, now it is time to actually party, really, because Alexander is the king of Asia. Plutarch says king of Asia. He is welcome to Babylon. We'll watch the movie scene on Monday about that, and Alexander has won. He's defeated the Persians. He is now king of Asia. Coming up next, we'll watch the movie scene, and then we will look at how the Greeks party. Alrighty, ka kite.